Hello, and welcome to episode 14 of Knee Deep in the Pod. I'm Dan.
And I'm Chris, baby! And this podcast is basically a place for us to talk about games and reminisce about the good old days when we actually had time to play them. This week, we're going to be talking about Silksong. That's right! Keeping it hot.
But before we dive into that, we're going to just do our usual icebreaker. Chris, what did you have for breakfast this morning?
Oh, Greek yogurt with going off grapes.
Ooh.
You know when grapes are just a bit too squidgy? Like, they taste fine, but it's not the, like, nice firm bite that you want from a grape.
That sounds like a very disappointing breakfast.
It was all right, although, as you may well tell our listeners, the Greek yogurt, or Greek-style yogurt, I should say.
Oh, Greek-style yogurt.
Yeah, that you get from the likes of, your local supermarket. You went to Greece sometime recently, and you were like, Chris, I'll
2
tell
years
you that.
ago.
Yeah, well, recent in our terms. And you're like, Chris, the Greek-style yogurt you get in supermarkets, it's trash. It's nothing like the real thing.
It's a poor shadow of true Greek yogurt, which you can also get here, but it's very expensive.
Okay. Yeah. So, it was subpar Greek-style yogurt with some squishy grapes. It was all right, It's all right.
No crunch, no like fiber, no oats or granola.
I like to
honey?
experiment. Oh no! I
Chia
don't like...
seeds.
Calm down now. Calm down. I like to experiment with seeds every so often. Maybe a few raisins. Sometimes I like to have raisins with grapes. Crazy. The dried and undried. Well, you were.
You're right. I'll always judge someone's breakfast.
Welcome to Knee Deep in the Pod, which is transitioned into a foodie critiquing podcast.
Knee deep in the bowl.
Knee deep in your porridge. What did you have for breakfast, Dan?
If anyone is tuning in for the first time, I'm just going to think this is what we do.
I'm going to cut you off straight away and say I think we will have some new listeners. I've been schmoozing. I've been doing a bit of schmoozing. And my schmoozing, I can tell you, has resulted in some more subscribers. I didn't think that the algorithm would allow any more subscribers. I'm not sure Spotify goes over 10 million on the subscriber count, but we shall see. It's like we're a boat just full of people, and adding one or two more might sink us at any moment, but we are at capacity.
You think there's got to be a ceiling somewhere.
But it just keeps growing.
How can numbers go so large?
What's the biggest number?
Oh,
that's the sort of philosophical question we answer in this philosophical themed podcast you've tuned into.
So we do philosophy, we do fine cuisine.
Yeah. You know what we don't? You know what you won't find here? Anything about games. No game content anymore. We've moved
games.
On. We've been doing this for a year, and we're
done
changing.
with games.
Yeah. Games was the first 12 months.
We've exhausted the topic.
I should say, actually, or we should say, we are now, we've reached our year's anniversary. We started doing this just over a year ago, and this is the first episode we have recorded since we're reaching that milestone.
My goodness. 1 year. Well done us.
Well done us. If you're listening...
We should have a cake.
We should have a cake. We should discuss what kind of cake. If you're listening...
Send us a cake to Chris's address, which is...
kneedeepinthepod at danjb.com. Is that right?
Email us a cake.
If you're listening, just say out loud right now. Well done. Well done, Dan and Chris.
Yeah. Yeah, a little pat on the back.
Say it now. Good job, thanks. Anyway, I cut you off very rudely, Dan. so long ago, you've probably forgotten what you were going to say.
Do you want to know what I had for breakfast or not?
Oh, yes, please.
I used to have Greek yogurt all the time, every day. I'd have Greek yogurt, granola, honey, and a chopped banana.
Oh.
I had this for some time, Chris.
Yeah.
And then I realised it wasn't doing good things to my bowels.
Your insides. Oh, no.
I wasn't getting enough fibre. So these days I'm on the bran flakes.
Are you?
So bran flakes, banana, easy.
Wow. That's, yeah. All I can say is that's like my dad. My dad, like, just any kind of, you open their cereal cupboard and it's every variant of bran available on the market.
High fibre, bran flakes, fruit and fibre.
All bran. Yeah, it's all there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Maybe oversharing, but there we go. Can't possibly edit that out now.
No, we have just recorded 10 minutes of breakfast content. Right. So, I'm going to ask you, what have you been playing? What have you been playing lately?
What have I been playing? Do you know, every time I pick up a new game now, I think, oh, I can talk about this on the podcast.
Yeah.
But it's been so long now since the last episode that I'm like, which game do I even talk about?
We might have to do some highlights.
Yeah, I tend to kind of just focus on the most recent one. And funnily enough, I picked up a new game last night, which is a game called The Root Trees Are Dead.
Okay.
I guess it's fairly niche, so I'm guessing by your reaction you haven't heard of it.
I've not heard of it, and I quite like the title.
The Root Trees Are Dead. Yeah, it's similar in gameplay to Return of the Obra Dinn, in that it's a sort of detective game where you have to look at clues, find clues, and use deduction, elimination, logic to figure out like the solutions to the problem, which is assembling a family tree, basically. The premise of the game is there's this powerful family called the Root Trees.
Okay.
And they've died in a plane crash. And you have to piece together their family tree to figure out basically who inherits their wealth.
Okay.
Something like that.
Uh-huh.
So you're Googling, it's not called Google, it's called Spider Search. You have this kind of old 90s PC with like a dial-up modem.
Okay.
And you have to search for people's names and search for clues. And it's like you're a real detective, you know, doing research on the family.
Nice.
It's quite fun. Yeah.
That sounds very cool.
Me and my wife started playing it because she really enjoyed Obra Dinn.
Yeah.
And we just couldn't put it down. We were playing for like 2-3 hours straight. Didn't get to bed till 1 a.m. because we were just like hooked on this game.
Oh my goodness. Oh, it's so good when a game properly grabs you like that.
Yeah, it's rare for me. Very rare.
Yeah. As you know, I started Obra Dinn, and I think what I need is a bit of a teammate. I need someone to like play it with, or kind of at least cheerlead me on whilst I'm going through it. Because it is a bit of a, I was going to say a bit of a head scratcher. I'm not far enough in it yet to kind of properly say, but yeah, as you say, it's kind of deduction and all that stuff. And I'm keen because, you know, I know, you know, you and our friend Joel, and also a popular commentator on YouTube, Yahtzee Croshaw, but all give it like gleaming like reviews. So I'm very keen to give it a proper go. But I think I just need like, I don't know, I need a bit of like moral support to like plow on and go for it.
Yeah, I think that helped, especially at the start. I found Obra Dinn quite a hard game to get into, but then once you get over that initial hump, you're hooked.
Yeah. So I'm keen for that. Well, I unlike other episodes where I've always been a bit sport for choice on games to kind of talk about, I've had a bit of a dry spell where life's just been a bit mad, so there's not been so much time for games. But I will just give a quick highlight reel and then talk about one game in particular. So I finished a game called Machinarium. I'd actually played it before, and it's like a point-and-click adventure game, essentially, but kind of a newish one. And I say, newish as in not from the 90s. Like it's, I don't know, 2015 or something.
It's from like the Steam era.
Yeah. And it's from Amanita Design, I think is the studio. And they've made a load of these like point and click adventure games. This one's just, the art style's lovely. The soundtrack is great. It's just kind of a nice place to be. It does have the frustration that every point and click adventure game has, where like you get stuck on a puzzle or something, you don't quite make the logic leap that the game wants you to for a while. Yeah. And you get a bit stuck. There are hints, but there's, again, even with hints, there are challenges. But anyway, the reason I was playing it again was I was playing it with my kids. I kind of thought this was kind of the content is safe and it's not too like hard in terms of like controlling stuff. Maybe this could work. And it was just nice to revisit. It's a really lovely game. And anyone that kind of just wants kind of an interesting, puzzly, nice game, like nice place to be with interesting art, I would recommend.
Funnily enough, I actually played a game from Amanita Designs very recently while I was on holiday.
Oh, yeah?
On my phone. I don't normally play games on my phone, but this one was called Pilgrims, and it was another sort of point and click.
Yeah.
Adventure is a stretch, but...
Okay.
It was that sort of game.
Nice.
I did quite enjoy it.
Cool. So I was also... like literally have spent 20 minutes on each of these games. I've recently played for the first time a game called Brotato, which is like an auto shooter game. We've been talking about this offline, and you reckon the game you mentioned on a previous episode is even better.
Halls of Torment?
Halls of Torment, yes.
I do prefer it.
So I do need to give that a go. But it's it's the kind of if listeners are familiar with like Vampire Survivors, I think that's kind of probably the most famous of this style of game. It's kind of a would you say it's a roguelike? It has that kind of
roguelite.
Yeah, so you kind of have this idea of kind of doing a run, and you'll likely lose, and you see how far you get. Although you can win runs, which you inform me of. And basically, as you go, you kind of buy bits to kind of upgrade your character and, destroy more baddies, see how far you get. So that's been quite fun. And again, like, been looking for things to play with the kids, and I think that might tick a few kind of boxes for playing with the kids. Because it's, again, like, really in terms of like player input, it's just moving because everything else kind of just happens. So that's worked quite well. And I also tried Monument Valley, which is I've only just started, but it's kind of a lovely, just nicely designed, pretty game, kind of little puzzle game. And I also tried Kameru. For anyone that really knows their Epic Games freebie library, you'll know that I have just been browsing all the free games lately. I was like, hey, I keep like saying yes to getting these free games. I'll give them a go. But yeah, if you're into cutesy games, maybe this Kameru kind of frog themed game will suit you. It didn't seem like it was quite right for me, but hey ho.
Now it was like a cozy game, right?
Yeah. So you kind of again, I really was just doing the tutorial, but it was like your friend wants to make a frog sanctuary, and they're like transforming this like swamp area into a place that will attract frogs. And you're like, it's like, hey, put this, place furniture around and it will attract the frogs, and then like feed them the right food, and then they'll like you, and you'll get points you can spend. I don't know. It wasn't quite doing it for me. But you know what is doing it for me, Dan?
You're more of a Toad guy.
This Toad-themed game that I'm about to tell you about.
What's doing it for you, Chris?
Heroes of Might and Magic Olden Era. That's right, people.
Of course.
It's out. Well, it's not out. The demo is out. I can't tell you the last time I played a demo of a game. I don't know.
Right?
I don't know how often that happens. I mean, I guess you get early access things or alphas, maybe. Maybe it's kind of like that. But I literally can't remember the last time I played a demo, and I certainly can't remember the last time I was excited to play a demo that had like come out.
Yeah.
But this is it, my friend. Listeners of the podcast will know I'm a big fan of the series, particularly Heroes of Might and Magic 3, but several games throughout the series I've spent a lot of time with. I think it's fair to say that the series went a little bit wayward with the kind of last couple of installments. Like, it's done okay, but it didn't quite have the magic. This, as the name kind of suggests, is, I think, trying hard to recapture the magic of Heroes 3 and 5, which are kind of, in the community, held up as kind of probably the most iconic and the most popular.
Yeah.
And it's doing a really great job. I've spent, I don't know, well, actually, I'm staring at it now, 8.5 hours with the demo so far. I mean, I've done the tutorials and I've done like 1.5 proper games. Games of Heroes are not short, but I think it's just ticking a lot of boxes. It's doing really well. So it's, for people that don't know, it is like a turn, but it's one of those, it's hard to describe because I would describe anything else that was similar to it as like a Heroes-like game. Like, if it's a bit, for me, it's a bit genre defining.
If you've not played a Heroes game, it is hard to like describe exactly what it's like, isn't it? It's quite unique.
It is. You know, I was having this conversation with someone recently, and they said, "Oh, that sounds a bit like," and I can't remember the next game they said, but as I was describing it more, they're like, "Oh, that's a bit like this." So maybe it's not entirely unique, but anyway, it's a turn-based strategy game where you have like towns and you have heroes that wander about the kind of main map with armies. And you have like battles that you encounter enemies and you have battles, but as your brother says, a good Heroes game should like 80% of your time roughly should be spent on the adventure map and not in battles. Like, kind of, you should spend a lot of your time kind of exploring, interacting with things in the map, and there's a big part of it is like exploring and kind of adventuring, and you'll come across battles along the way, of course, but a lot of it's kind of exploring the map, interacting with stuff, managing your towns, and then also having fights. And the fights need to be meaningful and exciting too. But I think some of their games, the balance has been a bit off. But the adventure map is really great in this one. Sorry, you were about to say something.
I'm just trying to sort of chip in whenever I can so that it's
not just a Chris show.
Well, later it's going to be the Dan show.
It
I
is
think
going
when
to be
we talk about Silksong, so maybe it makes sense. But just to chime in a bit on the battles, I guess the battles can become a bit sort of repetitive, formulaic, would you say, after a while?
Yeah.
Whereas the adventure map is like you're exploring, you don't know what's around the corner, for example. It's like that's where the real strategy, the wider game strategy comes into play.
Yeah, I think that is absolutely fair. I think particularly kind of, like once your heroes kind of got enough troops, there can often be a phase in the game where a lot of the battles are a bit like trivial. And that then changes as you start to get into kind of more challenging areas. But a lot of the excitement and interest is in exploring the map, and the strategy is there as well, because you need to be in the right places. You need to be, around where your enemies might kind of be, otherwise they're going to slip into your area and take all your towns. And in terms of like content and themes, it's a real melting pot of like anything fantasy or mythological, right?
Yeah, there's like ancient Greek like myth units, there's dragons, there's Pegasus is Greek as well, is it not? There's centaurs, there's kind of everything.
Yeah.
It's just like think of a fantastical creature is probably in the game somewhere.
That's right. There's almost nothing.
Gremlins.
Yeah. Orcs, goblins,
elves, dwarfs.
Yeah. Like, kind of nothing's off limits, you know? Like, anything would kind of feel welcome and belong.
Yeah.
Which is I think a lot of the fun of it. It's just like the variety of the creatures and stuff. Anyway, I'm having a great time. So yeah, just playing the demo. That's free to play, by the way. Anyone that hears this and wants to give it a go, you can. And yeah, we'd love
just
to
use code Chris.
Yeah, Heroes Olden Era, knee deep in the pod, Chris, and we just get a cheeky kickback. Yeah, whenever you click that link. They don't know who we are. So anyway, that's what I've been up to. That's what I've carved out some time to play.
And as you say, it needs a lot of time because games of Heroes are not short.
No, like a quick game of Hero. There's a bit of a theme, like with us, I think, with, Knights and Merchants is not a short game. Heroes is not a short game. There's quite a few games we play that are not quick. But I mean, a short Heroes game, what, hour and a half?
You'd be lucky
that's
to finish
speedy.
a game in an hour and a half.
Yeah, that's speedy. That's like a small map. But yeah, it's not uncommon for like a map to be, several hours of play. So
I think that's one thing that put me off the Heroes games a bit, is because it just takes so long. And especially if you want to do a multiplayer game and you're taking turns,
yeah,
double the time that it needs. But now for half the time you're just waiting around.
Yeah, and I think you're slightly less fond of the series than myself, even though we have played quite a bit together. I think you're right. That is like a challenge. I think they've addressed that to a degree, with like they do these like concurrent turns now. So you can have like concurrent turns basically until you find each other on the map. Then you have to kind of do traditional kind of turn taking, but until then you can kind of speed up the game by doing that. But yeah, I mean, ultimately that is a challenge. The only other game I can think of that's kind of similar in, like it's different but similar in its kind of the way it works. In a way, it's like the Total War games, because that has like a overworld type kind of, not quite an adventure map, but kind of an overworld, and then you kind of different locations are basically places to have a battle. And then you kind of have, it's very much the separation of like the overworld kind of map and then like the kind of battles. So like, again, there's no like proper analogous thing because it's a bit genre defining Heroes, but that's kind of, for anyone that's struggling and has played those, that'll give you a little idea.
What about Civilization?
Yeah, that's the other, yeah, you're right. That's the other one that's kind of, I've not played enough Civilization, but that has like a lot of town management and kind of big maps and stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've not played Civilization since Civilization Call to Power. I can't even tell you which one that was in this series. It might even have been a spin-off or something, but it was probably around the year 2000.
Yeah. You know what? I was thinking, that's reminded me, like we are due, and I'm going to be in bold and just say this out loud on the podcast. I think we are due to have a few guests on the podcast, on the pod. We've talked about it.
Yeah, we've talked about it. We just always like forget to make it happen.
Yeah, well, it's not happened yet, but we've got a few people that are kind of in our sights. And there's one person in particular I'm thinking of that's played quite a lot of Civilization, so they might be an interesting one to have on just to talk about that. And yeah, I wonder if if Tim might be a good one to have to talk about Heroes in a bit more depth.
Whoever they are, they better get themselves a decent mic.
Right then, what do you think? Shall we dive into the topic proper?
Let's do it. Let's do the I love that intermission sound. I kind of I have to sometimes restrain myself from putting in too many intermissions.
Oh, really?
It's like a delicate balance.
Yeah.
I just like it when it breaks the podcast into segments, even if there's really no need for it. It feels like it makes the podcast feel more structured than it really is.
Yeah. No, it's a nice touch that we had in from day one, and that's I take no credit. It's all you.
Well, thanks again to the creator of Eldritch for letting us use that sound effect.
There you go.
Anyway, so today we thought we would talk a bit about Hollow Knight Silksong, which is unusual for us because this game is super recent.
Brand new.
And normally we're focused a lot more on old games, but this is a game which has been hotly anticipated by the gaming community and myself. And since launch, I've already logged probably 40 odd hours into it.
Woo!
Chris, you haven't played it yet, but I've talked your ear off about it.
Absolutely.
And you played the original Hollow Knight.
Yep.
And you've seen, videos talking about Silksong as well, right?
All over YouTube. I've kept abreast of some of the more popular videos about it on YouTube for sure.
Yeah. So I think there are a lot of like common opinions floating around, which I'm sure we'll touch on. So I don't doubt that you'll have come across them already. But first, I mean, let's just talk about the anticipation and the reception of Silksong, right? Because this game was, 7 years in the making? Something like that.
Wow.
One of maybe the most wishlisted game of all time on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
And this game was so keenly anticipated that it crashed the Steam servers on launch. And not only the Steam servers, the Nintendo servers, I can't remember which other servers, but it was a whole bunch of them.
That's bonkers, isn't it? And like particularly when they all knew it was coming as well. This is what baffles me. When like, one thing, first off, that's like, it's pretty common to hear that like a game's servers crashed on day one. Like that always happens. And also continually baffles me because I'm like, you knew, like it was day one. It was going to happen because it always happens. Like prepare. But I mean, but this is the Steam servers. This is like, and the Nintendo, like the shop servers, right? So that's bonkers that like those crashed. But yeah, also again, like everyone knew it was about to launch, and it's like most hotly anticipated game for a long time. So anyway.
Yeah, I think that just really goes to show how excited people were for this game because everyone was trying to download it day one, the second it came out. And I was one of them. I was trying to buy it. The servers were glitching out, and at one point I had about 4 copies of Silksong in my cart. Like, how is that even possible? But it was just giving me all kinds of errors. You know what didn't crash? GOG.
Really? And were they selling it?
So I ended up... Yeah. So I ended up buying the game on GOG.
Yeah, you did.
I was actually delighted about because I'm a big fan of GOG.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a subject for another time.
Mm. Yeah, and I think probably no one was more excited about the news than the YouTube channel dedicated to Silksong News. Every time I remember you talking about it and how like most days he would just post a video for Silksong News just saying, there's no news.
I imagine he's devastated. That's the end of his career.
What's he going to do now?
I think he did a face reveal or something on launch day.
Seriously?
Like, some, big event to end his channel.
Oh, wow. I really hope it was behind like a mask that looked like Hollow Knight or the Silksong character. Okay. Right. So, so you got it was like what's that festival? It was like a Glastonbury style melee trying to get your tickets, except it was downloading a game. It was that sort of crazy, everyone's trying to do it at once. And then you got it?
Yeah. First impressions were kind of as I feared, to be honest.
Ouch.
Because I was scared about this game. because Hollow Knight was already very difficult, and as much as I enjoyed exploring the world, I didn't so much enjoy the like super difficult enemies and bosses. I know some people are really into that, but for me, that's just not what the appeal of the game is. And Silksong really doubled down on the difficulty, and it's become notorious for its difficulty.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of noise about that. You know, on the YouTube community, and you know, some quite big channels talking about that and describing it in some not quite scathing, but you know, but they haven't held back their opinions for sure. And I'll be interested, you know, I've got this impression from you as well, I think. I haven't really seen anyone in those reviews being like, and now I don't like the game. It's just frustrations with a game that they generally accept is really good and they want to play. But they're like, oh, I just wish these things were different, but I can't stop playing it because it's great.
Yeah, for me, it was a case of I liked the game in spite of the difficulty.
Yeah.
But it did genuinely become a real pain point at times. It's an extremely frustrating game at times. And not only that, but I feel it wastes the player's time in a lot of ways. And as a time-poor gamer, it almost feels a bit disrespectful.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is, you go on the Steam forums and there's a lot of people discussing the game, and some people are criticizing it and giving what I think are valid criticisms of the game. And then you've got this massive group of people who just won't stand for any criticism. And, you know, they'll just respond to everything by saying, get good, basically.
Yeah, okay. That's the community saying that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is really interesting, I think, because the implication is that the game is only fun if you're good at it. Which seems like a strange thing to want the game to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Surely you want the game to have a slightly broader appeal than that.
It's an interesting one, that. I think people have different ideas and approaches about this. Because did you say there's no difficulty setting? It's just the game just is what it is. Yeah.
You can't change the difficulty without mods.
Yeah, and it does feel a bit purist, you know. And I think, you know, generally an approach to games would, you know, that like a game developer would have is they might have a kind of typical experience that they expect or want the majority of their players to have. And I suppose that would be like the normal, is probably the normal difficulty setting, right? And then they'll, you know, have ways, you know, have an option for a harder or even like an extreme difficulty setting, and then also easier settings to just make it more broadly accessible for people, and make it more, you know, enjoyable for a broader group of folks. Which would seem to be. Yeah, it does seem to be just like it's just a sensible approach. I kind of get that, you know, you want to make a game and like to a degree, like maybe they just see like, you know, part of the identity of the game as being challenging. I can sort of see that as an argument, and you kind of want, you know, you don't want to sort of trivialize your game, and it's like, you know, this is supposed to be hard. And sometimes we talk about like older games being more meaningful, or we remember them more fondly because they were hard and we had to really persevere to like beat some levels. But I don't know, maybe it's just because we're time poor now, and so we're like, it was interesting you saying about being disrespectful of the player's time, and I think I really have a lot of like sympathy for that view these days with games, because it's just like, just don't make me revisit this content, like redo this whole section, like it's pointless. But that's quite new, like in the grand scheme of things. Like it used to be like if you didn't beat a level or you didn't beat a section, like tough, you got to do it all over again. Whereas there's a lot of kind of checkpoints and help these days. Yeah,
like older games were often very hard, And you're right, we didn't seem to mind it back then. But I think this is probably even harder than some of those games.
Yeah.
Because there's no way, like, 10-year-old me would have been able to beat this game.
Right.
There's just no way. Like, it is extremely difficult. And I can definitely appreciate the viewpoint that when something is challenging, it makes it more satisfying when you finally overcome it.
Mm.
And that's true sometimes. But more often than not, with Silksong, I just found when I beat a really challenging boss, it wasn't a sense of satisfaction or like, oh yes, I'm the king.
Yeah.
It was just an overwhelming sense of like, oh, thank God I can actually progress with the game. Like, I literally would think to myself time and time again, I never want to have to do that again.
Yeah.
Which has just straight up killed the replayability of the game for me. Like, I know I'll never replay it.
Yeah. Wow.
Whereas I think if it offered different difficulty levels and there was, let's say, an easy mode or even a normal mode, because I think what currently is there would be the hard mode.
Yeah.
I think I'd enjoy it a lot more on a lower difficulty. And a lot of people say, oh, just use mods. Just use mods if you want it to be easier.
Yeah.
But I don't like doing that because I don't know, I think I'm just too stubborn. I probably would enjoy it more with mods, but because that's not an officially endorsed way to play the game,
yeah,
I'm just a bit reluctant to do it, especially on my first playthrough.
Yeah.
You know, I want to enjoy it the way the devs intended it.
Yeah.
And I'm trying my hardest to do so, but it's
sort of feels
challenging
like defeat
at times.
I guess that is sort of I get the reluctance to do that. I mean, I think we've talked about this before. Like, I'm even reluctant to set a game to easy.
Yeah, it feels like failure, doesn't it?
It does. It's just like, I'm a gamer. You know, I'm by no means, you know, professional gamer, but like, I've been gaming for most of my life. Like, I should be able to do normal difficulty on like any game. Basically, that's how I feel.
Yeah, I feel the same.
And some games, I feel like, you know, if I'm switched on, I should be able to do hard, you know, like not all games, but, you know, like games that particularly genres that I'm more familiar with, like I should be able to do hard and like, it'll make me sweat a bit, but I should be able to like, you know, at least have a good time playing hard, even if I don't like quite manage it.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, I do get that. So like, yeah, I get that if I'm reluctant even to switch something to easy, like to install a like third-party mod to make it easier, like that, yeah, that's even worse.
Yeah, it doesn't feel good, does it? Having to go out of your way to install a mod to make the game playable.
Yeah, 100%. What was your well, actually, I've got two questions for you. One, I think earlier on you said something like, it's not what I was looking for, or it's not what I want out of the game, or not what I kind of get out of the game. Like when you were saying like the focus was on difficulty and bosses and stuff, and you're like, that's kind of not what I was looking for. What is it about a Hollow Knight game, of which Silksong is kind of a, you know, Hollow Knight Silksong? What is it that you look for or enjoy about a Hollow Knight game?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think that's maybe where some of the conflict comes in, because people are looking for different things in a Hollow Knight game.
Yeah.
Because it's a very rich game and it has a lot of really tight gameplay, but it also has this very intricate and visually stunning world to explore. So for me personally, I'm not that into like Souls-like combat and boss fights. Whenever I meet a boss, I'm just filled with dread.
Yeah.
Frankly. But what I love about these games is just exploring the world. The sense of wonder you get at finding some new places, and the mystery of not knowing what you're going to find around the next corner.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's what I love. So every time I encounter a boss, it's like this bottleneck that kind of blocks me from doing the things I actually want to do.
Yeah.
Which I think is maybe partly intentional, because then, your reward for beating the boss is, unlocking a new portion of the world, and then you get to explore it. I just don't want to be quite so blocked as I am at times.
Yeah, back to the bowel problems. We've moved on from our breakfast chat. So, and I'm interested to know, from your perspective, how does Silksong deliver on that element of the kind of sense of wonder and the exploration of interesting and beautiful kind of environments, I guess?
I think it's on point. I think it lives up to Hollow Knight, although I have heard kind of mixed opinions from other people online who think the focus is a bit more on the combat and such. But
yeah,
I've still really enjoyed the world. I think they've got some really interesting locations. It's still absolutely stunning to look at. The music's brilliant. So in all of those regards, I think it absolutely delivers.
Nice.
Yeah.
And are you going to press on to completion?
That's an interesting question. Okay, so the game is split into 3 acts. Okay. And I knew that going into it. I'd heard people talking about these 3 acts.
Right.
So I was very surprised when, in the middle of Act 2, I suddenly, upon beating a boss, got the end credits.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was like, what? And obviously after you get to the credits, you can load your game again and keep exploring.
Yeah.
Which I did, and I've probably spent another, 5+ hours exploring the game, still in Act 2.
Okay.
And I've yet to find Act 3. And actually, that's one criticism I have of the game, which I also had of Hollow Knight, is that some of the content is so hidden away that the game doesn't really steer you. I think if I didn't know that Act 3 existed, I would probably never find it.
Yeah.
I would probably just assume there are only 2 acts because it's so hidden. And I still haven't reached Act 3. I think I'm close, but I went away on holiday for 3 weeks and I came back and I've sort of lost interest a little bit. Now that I've seen the end credits, I'm like, from what I've heard, Act 3 is just even harder than Act 2. And I'm kind of like, I've got what I wanted to get out of the game. I don't know if I need to keep playing. I might go back to it at some point.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've already experienced most of what the game has to offer.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, to a degree, I'm not surprised. I think I've mentioned in a previous episode in this podcast, I really enjoyed Hollow Knight. I think it's a great game. I kept coming back to it because I really wanted to keep progressing and keep exploring it and enjoying the world. And I think the art and the music and the combat and just the feel of of controlling your character is really good. So I think it is a really good game, but I do think it's got some serious flaws. And I think the biggest one, chief among which, is basically what you've described, because it's the same with Hollow Knight. I don't think it's quite as neatly defined in terms of acts, maybe. But
no,
there's so much content that basically, unless you really go out of your way,
you'll never find it.
You'll never find it, and you won't understand kind of the plot and kind of the what's going on in the world. Really, you'll kind of get a sense of the world, but you won't really understand what's going on. There's just so much that you just won't. The typical player just won't find. And I think, as you say, I'm similar to you in that, once I've seen end credits, even if I know there's a load more content out there that's in the game. We've broken the seal now. You know, it's that's happened. I've seen the end credits, so I've kind of finished, even though I'm, you know, maybe technically I haven't finished, but I kind of have finished, you know, define finished. Once you've seen end credits, my motivation to keep playing any game, to be honest, just plummets pretty fast.
Same for me.
So I think that's a bit of a missed trick. But I don't know, maybe that's part of their secret sauce. You know, that's part of what gives it some of its wonder and some of its community of, you know, some, like, I'm sure there are people kind of going out to explore every corner of it and find every missing, you know, every piece of content that hasn't yet been found and all that stuff. Which maybe you wouldn't get with a more straightforward game. But
yeah, there's plenty there for completionists, that's for sure.
Yeah. When you were designing Abacus, what was your... I think we've talked about this a bit before, and I wanted to know your approach to difficulty. I remember you had an easy mode that was like...
Yeah, for chumps.
For chumps. What was your approach? What was your thinking when it came to difficulty there?
Yeah, so the difficulty levels were added quite late on in development, almost as an afterthought. I can't remember why I added them. Maybe it was a requested feature.
Yeah.
And I think it's just in the easier difficulties, there are more health packs during the levels that you can pick up.
Right. Okay. But some feedback came, presumably, like, oh, it's quite hard. It would be nice if there was a way that this could be a bit more playable for a player like me, I suppose.
So it was just like a token effort, really, to add in some lower difficulty levels, which I think is helpful. I think it's good to have.
Yeah. I'm going to, not to make this all about Dan and his game development, but I'm also going to pull out an example. Tales of Kinzera, Zao. BAFTA winning game now that Dan was involved in the development of. Now, I bring that up because that has... now, I don't think it's alone in this. It has difficulty settings, and one of them, I think it's got easy, and then it's got like story, which I think is quite nicely named. I think that's quite good, and it's basically described as like, you know, minimal challenge. You know, kind of basically we've set this up if you're most interested in the story of the game.
Yeah,
which is a nice way to frame it, I think. And it is what it says on the tin, really. There's like, you know, you need to kind of work hard to die, basically.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that you can die, and my kids do. And, you know, yes, I play this difficulty because of my kids. But honestly, I haven't seen any other game do a difficulty setting quite like it. Because, like,
really?
Not only is, you know, enemies quite low damage and all that sort of stuff, but there's also loads of extra platforms put throughout the whole game that might otherwise be spikes or, you know, chasms to fall down and stuff. And basically it means when my kids are jumping around the game and having a bit of fun playing daddy's game, they're not dying quite so much. You know, it's not just constant death. Like, they can have they can have a real go. I thought that is such a good feature, and I thought like someone has gone around and like put in, you know, where all the special platforms for the story difficulty folks, you know, are going to be.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I'm appreciative of that person, all those people that did that.
I'm glad you've enjoyed that. Yeah, that was like one of the patches, I think, maybe added those platforms. It was like very late in development.
Right.
I don't think we came up with the idea of a story difficulty. I think it's been done before by other games, but although I couldn't tell you which.
Yeah.
And to be honest, as we were implementing it, I kind of was a bit like skeptical, a bit like maybe, you know, thinking, oh, who needs a story difficulty? But yeah, that's just me on my high horse, I think. I'm glad that it's seeing some use.
Right, it's great. And I think that is the thing, like, I think similarly, outside of that context, I would be probably in a similar boat to you. Like, who needs that? Like, easy's surely easy enough. Like, just learn, just get.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't help myself. I'm veering towards that kind of get good rhetoric, I suppose, so I need to check myself. But yeah, it is like just putting yourself in someone else's shoes, I guess, and is the vision you have for your game so so precious and so pure that you can't bend a bit for someone in a different position. I think there's quite a lot made of like accessibility settings kind of in new games at the moment, and it is a type of accessibility, I think.
You're right. It's something we touched on a bit in one of our previous episodes, isn't it? We've talked a lot about difficulty, I think.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to discuss, actually, before we probably close this one off, is a lot of people on the Steam forums have been tossing around the term artificial difficulty.
Okay.
Now, what does that mean to you?
I'm going to start by saying I'm not quite sure what that means. So I'm going to sort of, what comes to mind, or what does one presume that means? Artificial difficulty. I mean, I suppose it'll be something that's like, is kind of against the flow or the grain of what you might expect. So like, I guess traditionally you'd expect generally a kind of smooth ramp-ish, kind of progressively harder throughout the game. And if someone suddenly introduced, partway through the game, just like, a kind of almost like a brick wall, just like a crazy hard boss that seems like it's belongs way further along in the game, because like your character will be more developed and you'd have learnt more things, blah, blah, blah. If that's too early, then that maybe feels artificially difficult. But I don't know if that's actually what is being meant.
That's a good guess. I don't know if that would qualify, to be honest. My understanding of the term artificial difficulty, and I think it's a useful term because I think it's very useful to distinguish between, like, I guess, fair difficulty or non-artificial difficulty versus, this thing. Artificial difficulty being when the game kind of punishes you unfairly for things that perhaps you can't control.
Okay.
So common examples would be enemies damaging you from off screen.
Okay.
Or you jump and then, I don't know, a spike falls down and hits you midair that you couldn't possibly have predicted. And kills you.
So almost like unfair things.
Yeah, like those times when you die, but it's kind of outside your control, and people might look at that and say, oh, this game's so difficult. But it's artificially difficult because it's kind of almost unrelated to your skill at the game.
Yeah.
And I think that term's being used a lot for Silksong, and I kind of get it.
Yeah.
Because there are times when it does feel like you're being punished unfairly. And I think those times, those are things where I think the game could be actually tightened up a bit. Like, I would almost consider them bugs at times,
Yeah. That's actually really interesting now that you've talked about that, because that leads me quite nicely somewhere else. So yeah, I've certainly heard the game being described as punishing, and I think one of the examples of punishment, although I think it's a bit different to what you just said, is like basically you die to a boss and then you kind of respawn like 2.5 minutes away through a difficult section that's hard to get through anyway. And it's like, why are you making me go through the pain of this every time, knowing that I'm going to lose to this boss probably 10 times before I master it and then beat it? So I've certainly heard it being called punishing in that regard. But it's time for our once an episode, at least, reference of Doom.
Hey, it had to come.
So Doom Eternal, and I guess now Doom the Dark Ages as well. But like just the team at id now, the phrase they use is player accountability.
Oh, okay.
And they kind of talk about it in terms of like, they basically want players, you know, they have a range of difficulty settings. So you can, you know, you don't have to be a pro, and they kind of, but they, you know, they talk about their game a bit like, sometimes they use sports analogies, you know, and they're like, you know, it's kind of, they kind of almost liken the game to some degree as like, you know, practicing at a sport, and like, you know, you don't expect to be like amazing at it first, you know, or you don't expect to be a black belt when you first start martial arts. You know, you kind of you start as a white belt, and then you know, we take you through these levels, we teach you some things, and now you're a green belt, and now, you know, and you kind of progress you.
Okay.
But when it comes to player accountability, like, you know, they're basically like, they don't want anything to feel unfair. They want the player to, you know, yes, they want to make things hard for players that are kind of up for the challenge, but they want every like death basically for you to know why that happened. And
right, like it should feel like your fault.
Yeah, basically, it's like it should either feel like your fault, or you should feel like you know how you would avoid it next time. Like you've learned from that, and you know how you could just be a better player and learn from that, like in the future. So I think when they're going through like, you know, their early launch stuff and like some of the, you know, the bugs that they work through and stuff, some of it is like, oh, you know, like I think your example of damage off screen, for example, like damage from off screen sources, or like spikes that basically give you no warning, or there is no like chance to avoid that damage.
Yeah,
that doesn't feel fair. So it's like, so they're like, we ask for player accountability. It's like, you know, don't whinge if you're like dying fairly. Like, this is how the game is played, and like maybe like look at your difficulty settings. If like, you know, if you're not enjoying the game at a certain difficulty, I'm maybe not they put it across in a really much better, like a much better way than that. But they're basically kind of suggesting there's a give and take. Like, you know, there's difficulty settings, and we want to make it really like a challenging but fun game, but we don't want you like dying when it feels unfair, and like the game is like, you know, we don't want you to be raging at the game because it's not fair. We want to make a game that's like, the systems feel fair, and so when you die, it's not like raging at the game. It's like, oh, okay, I know what I could do to be better. And I think if a game doesn't have that kind of that system and that like approach, maybe that's quite a good example. Like the kind of almost the opposite of that might be artificial difficulty, of just like, yeah, you don't get the opportunity to learn or kind of avoid this or kind of be a better player. It's just like, there's just this stuff that's gonna like beat you up.
Yeah. To be honest, as much as the sports analogy kind of turns me off, I do get where they're coming from, and I think it is nice as a player when you die and you feel like it's your fault, and you think, oh, and it's annoying that you died, but it feels fair, and you think, okay, I'm going to do better.
Yeah.
Interesting. One example that came to mind about like not being hit from off screen was Ratchet and Clank.
Okay.
Ratchet and Clank had this system where enemies wouldn't shoot you from off screen, which felt great. Like,
yeah,
it was a very well designed system, but you could kind of manipulate the enemies by moving the camera.
Yeah.
If you just make sure that the enemies are off screen, you'll basically never get hit.
Right. Yeah. Sort of cheese it a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think that's been a good conversation on Silksong and some of the controversy therein. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more we could go into if we wanted to really dive deep, but I think this has been useful, you know, to give an overview of the subject in a way that's kind of hopefully accessible to people who haven't necessarily even played the game. Because we've kind of talked very broadly, haven't we, about difficulty?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's been good to chat about current gaming news. Can you believe it?
I know. All right, dude. Well, it's been great to chat again, and look forward to spending the next week editing this.
To make it riveting content for all you folks listening. thanks so much for joining us for episode 14 of Knee Deep in the Pod.
14.
See you next time, folks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.